The most dangerous truth is this: the empath who refuses to set boundaries will eventually become indistinguishable from the very monster they fear. Jung discovered it in the corridors of his practice, watching fragile souls erode into the very shadows they thought they were escaping. The world teaches you that empathy is pure, untouchable, divine, but the secret nobody dares to tell you is that empathy without edges becomes possession. What you pity begins to own you. What you refuse to resist begins to infect you. And what you cannot name in yourself eventually steps forward in disguise, using your voice, your face, your body as its host. Imagine this: a patient enters, trembling, their eyes vast pools of sorrow. Let us call her Anna. She speaks softly, apologizing for taking up space, every word soaked in guilt, as if her breath alone were theft. She tells me she can feel what others feel with unbearable clarity. Her partner's rage becomes her nausea. Her mother's disappointment burns inside her chest. Her colleague's anxiety shatters her sleep. She calls it a gift, but in her journal, the pages scream differently. There, she has scrawled at midnight, I can't tell where I end and they begin. I am dissolving, I am disappearing, and when I finally scream, it is not me anymore. It is something else. And you see, Anna is the archetype of the boundaryless empath. Her compassion has no fortress, and so her psyche is breached daily. Her shadow feeds on the invasion until one day it rises. Not as kindness, but as fury. She lashes out at her partner with words so sharp they leave scars. Then she collapses in shame, horrified at what she has done, whispering, that wasn't me. But it was her shadow, the monster she had been hosting all along, finally demanding its moment in the light. This is the paradox. The empath who flees the monster outside must eventually face the monster within. To live only as a sponge is to become saturated with poison. To refuse boundaries is to invite possession. Jung called it the confrontation with the shadow. But for the empath, the shadow does not arrive as a whisper, it arrives as an eruption. And unless it is faced consciously, it will destroy. Now pause. Because here lies the revelation hidden in plain sight. Empathy without boundaries is not love. It is fear disguised as virtue. It is the terrified child within you saying, if I absorb their pain, maybe they won't abandon me. If I carry their darkness, maybe they'll let me stay. But what is repressed does not vanish, it transforms. The empath who refuses boundaries becomes the aggressor in secret, snapping, manipulating, controlling, suffocating, all while convincing themselves they are only helping. And by the time they realize what has happened, the mirror is already cracked. Think of empathy as a river. When it flows within its banks, it nourishes, refreshes, gives life, but remove the banks and the river becomes a flood. Crop drown, homes are destroyed, lives are washed away. The empath without boundaries is that flood uncontrolled, destructive, swallowing everyone, including themselves. Jung understood this through the lens of projection. Whatever you cannot integrate within yourself will find its way onto others. For the empath, this means that unacknowledged anger, unspoken resentment, or disowned selfishness gets projected onto the monster they see in others. They swear they are only rescuing, only giving, only healing, while secretly resenting, envying, and despising those who take advantage. But here is the brutal truth. The taker and the giver are locked in the same unconscious dance. Each is feeding the other. Each is shaping the other. And the empath, by refusing boundaries, slowly becomes indistinguishable from the narcissist they claim to despise. Do you feel the warning yet? It is not abstract. It is a storm already forming inside you. Every time you say yes, when your soul screams no, every time you swallow your truth to preserve the peace, every time you give because you are afraid to be empty, these are the cracks in the wall where the shadow seeps through. And once the shadow has tasted daylight, it will not politely retreat. It will take you hostage. I have seen it countless times. The sweet daughter who becomes the bitter mother she swore she would never resemble. The compassionate husband who, after years of self-betrayal, erupts into violent control. The healer who becomes the manipulator, drawing others into endless webs of obligation. They did not begin as monsters. They began as empaths, and they thought that compassion without limits would save them. Instead, it damned them. Let us return to Anna. She tells me a dream. In it, she's walking through a house where every door is open and strangers wander in and out. At first, she tries to greet them, offering them water, food, kindness. But soon, they are breaking furniture, stealing her belongings, screaming in her ear. She tries to scream back, but her voice is silent. Finally, in desperation, she grabs a knife and begins to stab. She wakes up horrified, clutching her chest, whispering, "I would never do that. I'm not violent." But her psyche knows better. Her unconscious is revealing the truth. The longer she refuses to set boundaries, the closer she comes to becoming what she fears. This is the secret. Your unconscious does not care about your self-image. It only cares about balance. And if you exile anger, rage, selfishness, assertiveness, your psyche will force them to return disguised, twisted, dangerous. You cannot banish parts of yourself forever. They will claw back, and when they do, they may not knock politely. They may break the door. So the question is not whether you have a monster. The question is whether you will face it consciously or let it consume you unconsciously. And you, reading this, you already know the truth in your bones. You have felt the snap of your own voice, shocking even yourself. You have caught the flash of rage in your eyes when no one was watching. You have noticed the quiet resentment curdling beneath your endless giving. You may even have whispered to yourself in shame, "I am becoming what I hate." That whisper is not madness. It is the shadow knocking, demanding to be seen. The stages are predictable, clinical, and devastating. First, you overextend, giving endlessly, mistaking martyrdom for love. Then you feel drained, resentful, unseen. Soon you begin to fantasize not about kindness, but about revenge, about finally saying no, about punishing those who have used you, and finally, one day, you snap, you become cruel, manipulative, controlling, everything you once despised, and afterward, you collapse in shame, unable to reconcile the image of the good empath with the monster who just spoke through you. Do you see how it happens? It is not random. It is psychological law. What is repressed returns. What is denied becomes fate. And the empath who refuses to set boundaries is doomed to this cycle until they awaken. This is why Jung spoke of individuation, the sacred process of integrating the shadow rather than fleeing it. You cannot escape the monster by running from it. You escape it by staring into its eyes and saying, I know you, you are mine, and you will not rule me. Only then can empathy transform from possession into power, from martyrdom into love. And yet, most empaths resist this because boundaries feel like cruelty. Saying no feels like murder. Asserting yourself feels like abandonment. But the paradox is that without these very boundaries, you will commit far greater cruelty. You will abandon yourself, and you will murder your own soul. So, let me tell you, now before it is too late, your boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks. They are the sacred architecture that allows empathy to live without drowning. Without them, you are not loving, you are leaking. And every leak leads to collapse. Sign 1. You say yes when your body screams no. This is the earliest fracture in the wall of the soul. You nod, you smile, you agree. But inside, there is a tightening in the chest, a collapse in the gut. You call it compassion, but your unconscious calls it self-betrayal. And every time you silence that inner protest, the shadow grows stronger. You think you are buying peace. In reality, you are feeding the very monster you fear. Sign 2. Your empathy becomes surveillance. At first, you only want to soothe. You monitor others' moods like a weather vane, always predicting storms, always adjusting yourself to prevent thunder. But soon it mutates. You begin to police their every word, their every silence, convinced you can decode their anger before it strikes. Jung called this identification with the other's complex. You are no longer yourself, but their psychic shadow, orbiting them like a satellite. In this stage, you are already half possessed. Sign 3. Resentment blooms in the silence. You keep giving, but inside, a poison brews. You smile as you hand over your time, your energy, your body, but you hear yourself whispering in the night, "Why don't they notice me? Why don't they care about me?" And the answer is brutal, because you trained them not to. You thought you were protecting love. You were training them to feed on you, and resentment, when swallowed too long, curdles into rage. Sign 4, the eruption. It does not arrive politely. It comes like an earthquake. You scream at your child for spilling milk. You slam the door on your partner for forgetting a word. You write a message so sharp, it cuts the very person you swore to protect. You see yourself in that moment and think, "Who am I? This is not me." But it is you, the shadow, long repressed, finally seizing the stage. This is the moment the empath begins to resemble the monster they feared. Sign 5. The self-image shatters. You look in the mirror and see both faces at once, the angel and the tyrant, the healer and the manipulator. You cannot reconcile them. You feel shame, disgust, even horror. Many collapse here, unable to integrate the truth. They flee back into overgiving, promising themselves they will never snap again. But this only repeats the cycle. You are not saving yourself, you are deepening the possession. Sign 6. Projection solidifies. You begin to see monsters everywhere. Every person who demands something from you becomes a narcissist. Every conflict becomes abuse. You are convinced you are surrounded by predators. And yet, the cruelest truth is that the predator is already inside you. Jung warned of this. What you cannot face in yourself, you will see in everyone else. The empath without boundaries becomes paranoid, trapped in a hall of mirrors where every reflection is their own disowned shadow. Sign 7. You wear the mask of the monster. At this stage, transformation is nearly complete. You control under the guise of caring. You manipulate with guilt, saying, "After all I've done for you." You smother others with your love that is really a leash. You become the very suffocating force you once swore to resist. And yet, tragically, you cannot see it, because you still believe you are only helping. This is the deepest possession, the unconscious convincing you that your shadow is virtue. Do you see yourself in these stages? Even a flicker of recognition is dangerous, because it means the storm has already entered your house. Jung would tell you, the psyche leaves signs, symbols, warnings, the dream of the open house with strangers wandering in, the sudden rage that terrifies you, the secret fantasy of burning it all down. These are not accidents. They are your unconscious demanding that you awaken. Let us return to Anna. After months of therapy, she confessed that when she passed a mirror, she sometimes saw herself as monstrous, her face twisted, her eyes cruel. She wept, insisting, "I don't want to be like them." But her unconscious was already revealing the truth. She was like them. The shadow she refused to face had become her double. Only when she admitted this did healing begin. Only when she stopped pretending she was pure did she reclaim her power. This is the law of individuation, integration, not denial. To set boundaries is not cruelty, It is acknowledgement of the monster before it takes control. The no you speak is an exorcism. The limit you set is a sacred line, keeping your river from becoming a flood. The shadow does not vanish, but it ceases to rule, and so I warn you now, if you recognize even one of these signs, you must act. Do not wait until the eruption. Do not wait until you have burned the very people you wanted to save. Because once you have become the monster, it is far harder to return. So what must you do? The protocol is not easy. It is surgical, brutal, necessary. It begins with the courage to see what you are hiding. It demands the discipline to say no when everything in you trembles. It requires that you become ruthless, not with others, but with the illusions that keep you enslaved. Step 1, trust the revolt inside you, that tightening, that nausea, that heaviness. When someone asks too much, that is your unconscious screaming the truth. Stop silencing it. Begin listening. Step 2, practice the sacred no. Speak it aloud, even if your voice shakes. The first no will feel like death. It will feel like betrayal, but it is resurrection. Every no you speak is a brick in the fortress of your soul. Step 3, reclaim your shadow. Do not pretend you are only love. Admit the anger, the envy, the selfishness. They are not sins, they are signals. To own them is to disarm them. To deny them is to become their puppet. Step 4, create the lock on your door. Not everyone may enter your house. Not everyone deserves your river. Your empathy is gold. Spend it wisely. To give it to all is to cheapen it into dust. Step 5, endure the backlash. Those who fed on your endless yes will rage when you say no. They will call you selfish, cruel, changed. Let them. Their rage is proof that the monster was not you, but what they demanded you become. And finally, step 6, watch the transformation. Because the moment you set boundaries, empathy changes shape. It no longer drains, it empowers, it no longer enslaves, it liberates. You do not lose compassion, you purify it. You do not kill love, you resurrect it. This is the paradox that will save you. Only when you dare to be seen as cruel will you discover what real kindness is. Only when you risk being hated will you discover the love that cannot be corrupted. And only when you face your monster will you finally be free of it. Pause, breathe, feel this truth. You are not being asked to destroy your empathy. You are being asked to rescue it from drowning. You are being asked to guard it as the sacred fire. It is without boundaries that fire burns down the house. With boundaries, it warms, it heals, it saves. Anna learned this after months of trembling no's, of shattering her martyr's mask. She began to feel her own shape again. She stopped dissolving into others. She began to dream of locked doors, not of knives. She began to feel her own joy, unpolluted by the pain of everyone else. And when she finally looked into the mirror again, she saw only her own eyes, steady, unflinching, alive. This is what waits for you if you dare to walk this path. To remain boundaryless is to be consumed, to awaken is to transform, and the choice is always yours. You must understand, the shadow does not wait politely in the attic. It lurks in the basement of your psyche, pacing, restless, hungry, every unspoken no, every swallowed anger, every self-betrayal drips down like water, filling the cellar. At first, you ignore it, the footsteps below, the faint smell of mildew, the strange drafts in the night. But one day, the basement door bursts open, and what has been gathering in silence floods into your life like a storm tearing down illusions. This is why boundaryless empathy feels noble yet ends in terror. You imagine yourself saving others, yet all the while you are storing poison in your own house. And when the storm arrives, you no longer know what is yours and what is theirs. It is as if the sky has split open, lightning flashing, rain drowning the fields, the flood carrying both predator and prey into the same torrent. The empath in collapse enters the hall of mirrors. Everywhere you look, you see monsters, selfish partners, demanding parents, manipulative friends, and yet every reflection bends and twists until you no longer know whether you are seeing them or yourself. The hall of mirrors is the psychic trap Jung described, projection. You think you are staring into their darkness, but you are staring at your own. Every monster you accuse is another mask of the one you carry within. Do you see the cruelty of this? You believe you are the victim, but in secret you are the persecutor. You believe you are pure, but in secret you are possessed. The one who loves too much without boundary becomes the one who suffocates, who manipulates, who destroys. You thought you were running from the monster, but you were running in circles, only to collide with it inside your own skin. But here is where transformation begins, not in fleeing, not in denying, but in descending consciously into the basement, in stepping directly into the storm, in smashing the mirrors with your own hands. This is individuation, not comfort, not endless giving, but the courage to face the terror within. Let me paint it for you. Imagine yourself descending the stairs into the shadow basement. The air is damp, the walls cracked. At the far corner sits the thing you have feared, the twisted face, the eyes burning with rage, the mouth snarling accusations. You want to run, but this time you don't. You walk closer, you kneel, and you whisper, I know you. You are mine. And in that moment, something shifts. The monster shudders, collapses, and transforms, not into light, not into purity, but into strength. It was never evil. It was abandoned power, and by reclaiming it, you cease to be possessed. You become whole. The storm, too, transforms. No longer a flood that drowns you. It becomes rain that cleanses. The lightning illuminates the landscape of your soul, showing you paths you had never dared to walk. The thunder is no longer terror, it is the drumbeat of awakening, shaking loose the illusions that chained you. What once destroyed now purifies, and in the hall of mirrors, you no longer recoil. You look into the distorted faces and see not enemies, but fragments. You touch the glass and whisper, I see you. I know you are me. The mirrors crack, and behind them is not emptiness, but freedom. The projections dissolve, and you finally see people as they are, not as distorted carriers of your disowned shadow. This is the transformation outcome. The empath who once drowned becomes the empath who sees. The victim becomes the witness. The hostage becomes the sovereign. You no longer leak energy into every open mouth. You choose where to pour, and the pouring is pure. You no longer collapse into martyrdom. You stand as a presence, sometimes saying yes, sometimes no, always whole. Anna experienced this in a way that startled even her. One evening, her partner returned home, restless, angry from work. In the past, she would have absorbed it, felt the storm as her own, rushed to soothe him, dissolving into his rage. But this time, something new happened. She felt the anger press against her like a wave, and instead of swallowing it, she breathed. She whispered, that is yours, not mine. And for the first time, she remained intact. Her partner shouted, then fell silent, confused. He looked at her and saw she had not collapsed, had not taken his poison into her body. She was steady, unshaken, whole, and in that moment she realized the monster within her had been integrated. She was no longer its hostage. She was its master. The imagery of rebirth is not accidental here. To move from boundaryless empathy into sovereignty is to die and resurrect. You must die to the illusion that endless giving is love. You must die to the fantasy that you can save others by sacrificing yourself. And in that death, you rise not as a savior, but as a sovereign soul. You rise as someone who loves with clarity, who gives with choice, who protects the fire within so that it can truly warm the world. You see, the transformation is not small. It is not a minor adjustment, it is seismic. Before, you were a sponge, porous, leaking, drowning. After, you are a vessel, solid, radiant, channeling empathy without being consumed. Before, you were prey to every manipulator. After, you see through them with piercing eyes, immune to their hooks. Before, you were terrified of being cruel. After, you realize that true cruelty is self-erasure, and true kindness is self-respect. And what happens then? Something miraculous. Your relationships shift. The takers drift away. They cannot feed on you anymore. The predators lose their power. You are no longer blind, and those who truly love you remain relieved, grateful, because now they are loving the real you, not the mask, not the martyr, but the sovereign soul. Pause and feel this. Imagine the storm dissolving, the basement monster kneeling, the mirrors shattering. Imagine the boundaries rising like golden walls around your heart, not prisons, but sacred architecture, holding your empathy as fire, as light, as medicine. This is a transformation awaiting you, but only if you choose it. The truth you were never told is that transformation feels like treason. When you first set the boundary, when you first say no, when you first refuse to absorb what is not yours, you will feel as though you are betraying the very core of your identity. But you must endure this crucifixion, because on the other side of it, resurrection waits. The empath who learns boundaries does not lose their gift. They refine it into sight sharper than a blade. Contrast this with the one who refuses. Without boundaries, the empath lives like a ghost, dissolving into every demand, haunted by every projection, consumed by monsters, both within and without. They lose shape, they lose voice, they lose self, they become the very predator they feared, hiding behind the mask of compassion while secretly strangling the life out of every connection. This is the tragedy. The saint who becomes the tyrant, the healer who becomes the jailer, and it happens not because they lacked love, but because they lacked edges. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine standing rooted in yourself, no longer a sponge, no longer a flood, but a vessel of living fire. Imagine feeling someone's pain without being devoured by it. Imagine saying no without collapsing in guilt. Imagine giving not because you are afraid, but because you choose. This is not just survival, it is mastery. It is what Jung meant when he said individuation is the destiny of every soul. To become whole, integrated, unpossessed. The difference is night and day, without boundaries. You are a storm victim, tossed, shattered, begging for the rain to stop. With boundaries, you are the storm itself, powerful, cleansing, unstoppable, yet never destructive. Without intention, without boundaries. You are the basement prisoner, chained in darkness by the monster you refuse to face. With boundaries, you are the one who walks into the basement with a lantern, seeing the monster for what it is, your abandoned strength, your hidden clarity, your repressed voice. And when this transformation occurs, the world around you shifts as if by magic. The manipulator who once drained you now finds no entrance. The narcissist who once ensnared you now faces a mirror they cannot shatter. The endless takers vanish, seeking other hosts, and in their place arrive those who honor your no, who cherish your yes, who meet you not as prey, but as equal. The law of synchronicity awakens as within, so without. When you integrate the shadow, the outer monsters lose their power. Anna discovered this one evening. Her mother called, demanding hours of emotional labor. In the past, Anna would have absorbed it, sacrificed her evening, collapsed into exhaustion. But this time she listened, and when the moment came, she breathed and said, "I love you, but I cannot talk tonight." Silence fell. She trembled, expecting guilt, fury, rejection. Instead, something remarkable happened. Her mother sighed and said quietly, "I understand. The world did not end. The monster did not devour her. In truth, the monster had never been outside. It had always been within. This is the sacred revelation. The only way to defeat the monster is to stop fleeing and face it. And when you do, it ceases to be a monster. It becomes part of you. You do not destroy it. You integrate it. And suddenly, the energy that once erupted as rage now fuels your clarity. The resentment that once poisoned your love now sharpens your choices. The fear that once enslaved you now becomes courage. So I speak to you now, directly, urgently, prophetically. If you do not set your boundaries, you will become the very thing you are running from. And if you dare to set them, you will become something far greater than you imagined. The choice is yours. The time is now. You have felt the signs, the fatigue, the resentment, the eruption, the shame. These are not random, they are warnings, road markers, signs from your unconscious. Ignore them, and you will collapse. Honor them, and you will awaken. There is no middle path. So what will you choose? Will you continue dissolving until you vanish, until the monster wears your skin? Or will you turn, face it, and reclaim the power that was always yours? I leave you with this. The empath's destiny is not to be devoured. It is to become the seer, the one who feels without drowning, the one who loves without losing themselves, the one who walks among monsters and is never possessed. This is who you are meant to be. And now I ask you, do you see it? Do you feel it? Then write it into existence. Go to the comments and declare, "I see everything," because once you speak it, you anchor it in your reality. You are no longer blind. You are no longer prey. You are awake. Subscribe if you are ready to step further into the hidden dimensions of truth. Share this if you know someone who is drowning in empathy without edges. And remember, this is not the end. This is the beginning. See you in the next dimension.